Hey, hi, hello everybody, and welcome to Radio Icebox Season 2, Episode 8, The Whisper in Your Ear. And before we get started with the wonderful story today, we want to thank some of the people that make the Icebox Radio Theater and Radio Icebox possible. Our patron of the episode is Michelle Normandou. Michelle, thank you so much for helping us out on Patreon. Our members of the episode, these are voting members of the Icebox Radio Theater, our good friend Quinn McCauley and Michael McFarland. Thank you, gentlemen, for your support of the IBRT. And our super member, that's someone who's both a member of the Icebox Radio Theater and a patron on Patreon. This week, it's Matthew White. Matthew, thank you so much for all you do for the Icebox Radio Theater. So now, without further ado, we are proud to present Radio Icebox Season 2, Episode 8, The Whisper in Your Ear. Good morning, Icebox. There's a stillness in the air outside. The dead of winter is upon us, and everything is wonderful here in northern Minnesota. Okay, so it's a little cold, but it's wonderful because it sounds so nice. Do you hear that? Do you hear that silence? Nice, isn't it? Yeah. Oh yeah, radio. Weather after this. Hi, this is Woody. It's February, and like I say, ice fishing has never been my thing, so it's pretty much watch the hockey game for me. You know, this one time the TV was in a different place or something, and I got the French channel from Canada. They were showing Leafs and Habs from Montreal, and it came in better than ever. I remember, I think Guy Lafleur was playing then. Remember how he had that long hair flowing out behind him as he broke up ice? It was beautiful. Kind of a poetry to the man. I'll tell you, if the wife told me she was shacking up with Guy Lafleur, I'd tell her, you go right ahead. That's a good-looking man and life's too short.
Woody's Bait Shop and Guide Service on Beach Avenue in Icebox. Open alternating Tuesdays, 1 to 5.
You ever felt like crying and you don't know why?
Woody's!
Okay, morning, Cody.
Morning, JJ. How's things?
Quiet. Very quiet.
Yes.
Still, you might say.
Uh-huh. Boring?
Yeah, you might say that too, except for the weather.
-2 currently outside.
That's a good jacket weather.
A bit warmer up the road in International Falls where it's 0, and all that translates to -19 Celsius in Fort Francis.
It's always colder in Canada. We're looking for a few snow showers this evening with an overnight low of 2 above. You know, I like that weather.
Oh?
Yeah, snow, but not so cold that you need a shovel. You can use a broom.
Be thankful for the little miracles.
Exactly.
15% chance of mild depression throughout the listening area, but that chance will greatly decrease when the sun comes out later in the week.
Ice fishing conditions now. The National Weather Service reports that the ice should be thick enough for all vehicles so long as you lay off the chicken wings and switch to light beer.
Like, that'll happen. Other than that, the fishing is good out by Old Pierre's place, and he does have a whole murder of rental houses on the reef.
He has a what?
A murder. It's a murder of fish houses. Isn't it?
What are you talking about?
A group of fish houses is a murder, like a murder of crows.
Really?
I don't know. It seemed like a thing to say.
Huh.
Anyway, that's about it for the weather. Long-range forecast, winter until it's spring.
And when will that be coming?
Few weeks. You got some announcements?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. From the shinny rink down on the lake, Pete Anderson's team is in need of players. If you shoot left and have your own skates, come down to the rink about 7. Pete's got a game then. But remember, Pete says everyone on the team also has to belong to the book club. So don't come down unless you have some insight into the lesser Orwells. I don't know what those are.
Anything that isn't 1984 or Animal Farm.
Oh, right. This note from the Horseshoe League. Annual dues are now due. Just get your money to Rafael Martinez de Marquis Seville, and you'll be ready to start pitching come spring.
April Peterson wants all her friends to know that the sleepover tonight is off because the boys can't come because they have a hockey tournament. There's a note here. Please, Mr. JJ, could you make sure my parents don't hear this? No, April, he can't. Unlike the internet, radio is democratic. So good luck explaining that one, April.
Uh-huh.
And finally, Hera Humphreys is back from the cities with a load of slightly off beef. It's in her freezer if anyone would like some. Just let her know.
How off exactly?
She doesn't say exactly, but she drove it up here in her car without passing out, so that's something.
Right, programming note now.
Here I am, la-di-da, enjoying my time by the frozen lake. There's not much for me to do here in wintertime, but it's still good to be outdoors.
Coming this winter on Radio Icebox, the story like you've never heard it told before.
I'm a lot busier in the fall, but winter is nice too. It's peaceful, calm, serene.
From the mind of the Coen brothers comes a story about a forgotten character and the pain he must endure when thrown into the middle of a heinous crime.
Oh, look! The nice man is coming toward me with something. Perhaps it is some work for me to do. I would like having some work to do.
A tale of crime, a tale of horror, from a point of view you never considered before.
Gee, that doesn't look like a tree branch. How am I supposed to chip that? Wait a minute.
It's that scene from Fargo, from the woodchipper's point of view.
What are you doing to me? That's not a tree branch!
It's gruesome. It's gory. It's the story of an innocent woodchipper's very, very bad day.
Oh, I think I'm gonna burn!
Coming soon to Radio Icebox.
News headlines now on Radio Icebox. This is Haywood Jabuzzoff reporting. Lake Grocery reports an epidemic of shoplifting in the meat counter this month, and police are stumped as to the cause. Dave Valeri, owner and manager of the Main Street Community Staple, reports that several pounds of steak, chicken, and pork cuts have gone missing. Security cameras show a pale, black-clad figure selecting several cuts of meat one moment, then disappearing from the frame in the next. Store staff reports seeing the figure several times in the past few weeks and feeling lost and woozy afterwards. In a related development, several cuts of the missing meat have been found in the woods off Beach Avenue, drained of blood, with 2 puncture wounds in the shrink wrap. Police are withholding comment until, quote, something reasonable comes up. Einar Penthaven reports that a large multinational cartel has expressed interest in building a 40-acre manufacturing and distribution center inside his hunting shack off County Road 21. The shack, which has not been used for several years and, in Einar's words, needs everything from a coat of paint to foundation work, seemed an unlikely choice for a massive industrial park, but Einar could not comment as to the cartel's intentions. They're offering a good price, so I think I'll take it, Einar said in a recent interview. The cartel, which manufactures tractor parts, prefabricated buildings, and steel fencing, would not comment on how their operation would fit inside a 20 by 30 wood building, except to assure local residents that magic would not be involved. Okay, play of the day is coming up.
Right after we take a phone call.
What?
The light. We have a call. See?
Well, who is it?
I don't know.
You're supposed to screen the calls, Cody.
Yeah, well, I wasn't in the room.
What?
I was in control checking something.
But you're in the room right now.
Sorry, I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
You're not on the phone, Cody. You're standing right there.
No, I'm not. I'm not even in the room.
Kid's too smart for his own good. Good morning, this is Radio Icebox, and you're on the air.
Who's responsible?
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm gonna guess me?
Well, it has to stop. There are kids listening to this station.
So it's Talkback segment here on Radio Icebox. May I ask who's calling?
I'm a concerned citizen who demands that my voice be heard. I'm important.
And who are you?
I'd rather not say.
Uh-huh.
Are you gonna play that show about the wood chipper?
Chip the wood chipper from Fargo? Yes, we are.
It's disgusting.
Well, satire does tend that way.
I'm gonna organize a protest of this station. We have to have standards and morals.
Okay, come on down.
What?
Come on down to the station. We have a nice piece of sidewalk in front you can march on. Hey, we'll even let you come inside the lobby now and again and warm up. How's that sound?
Come down there?
Sure. I mean, you can't organize a protest without, protesting.
What time should I come down?
Well, that's up to you.
Well, I don't know. I was gonna go shopping later. Should I do it then?
Anytime you like. Just bring your signs down and march in front of the station.
Signs? I don't have any signs.
Oh.
Do you have any signs?
Fresh out, sorry.
This is getting awfully complicated.
Uh-huh.
Why did I call again?
I can't remember, but thank you so very much for calling Radio Icebox.
Oh, you're very welcome. You do a wonderful job down there. A credit to the community.
And it's about 1:30 now at Radio Icebox. Jumping in here with another quick reminder, spring is on the way, and with spring comes, of course, changes in temperatures, and with changes in temperatures comes, well, how to put it, the singing pipes of Radio Icebox. We're trying to fix the problem, but again, it wasn't really in the budget, so we're reaching out to those of you who have internet access here in Icebox. In other words, those of you who use the library or kind of hang around our building with cell phones and tablets and whatever other Christmas gifts you got that you haven't been able to use until we set up the wireless router. And we're just asking you to consider going to audibletrial.com/IBRT. Where you go there, you can get a free month of the Audible Books on Tape or audiobook service, where you get to listen to any kind of book you'd like. There's fiction, there's nonfiction, there's self-help, there's helping somebody else, there's something scary, there's something intriguing, politics, you name it. It's all on audible.com, and you can get a free month, and that means a free audiobook, just by going to audibletrial, that's all one word, .com/IBRT. And we're going to have an opportunity to call a plumber if you do that, because when you sign up, specifically at audibletrial.com/IBRT, hey, a little kickback comes our way. It's kind of a neat system they got there in internet land, and we're very, very happy to ask, please, that you consider it so that we can, not have shrieking in our ears all spring and all fall as this old building expands and contracts like they do. That's audibletrial, all one word, .com/IBRT. Get a free month of the service right now. You're listening to Radio Icebox. Okay, time now for our favorite feature here on Radio Icebox. It's Play of the Day. Now, we do our best to come up with original plays each and every day here to entertain you folks in the beautiful town of Icebox, Minnesota, but sometimes you just gotta dig deep into the archive, and we have a very special encore presentation. Today we're going to go back and listen to the Icebox Radio Actors Guild as they recreate an old-time radio comedy classic. It's an episode of Our Miss Brooks on the Radio Icebox Play of the Day. Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Cream for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, bring you Our Miss Brooks starring Victoria Olsen. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Jeffrey Adams. Well, like most school teachers, our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, has been exposed to her share of puppy love.
I'll say I have. It's getting so I can't look a puppy in the face without flinching. But the kids at school are nothing compared to the case I discovered at home between my landlady, Mrs. Davis, and Horace Barlow, the school's new basement custodian. Although she met him a week ago at a school tea, up until Thursday morning at breakfast, she kept denying anything but a passing interest in him.
Please, Connie, just because Horace Barlow has been over a few times is no reason for people to jump to conclusions. My goodness, Horace isn't jumping to conclusions.
At his age, Horace is lucky if he can limp to conclusions. But I've seen you two together, Mrs. Davis.
As far as I'm concerned, I think of Horace as just a real nice boy.
And he is, too. A real nice 68-year-old boy.
He happens to be 54, Connie. He told me so himself.
I know, Mrs. Davis, and Jack Benny is 39. Not that I'm criticizing your friendship. Far from it. I'm delighted that Horace is so genuinely fond of you.
Oh, Connie, Horace doesn't even know I'm alive.
Well, don't let that worry you. It's hard to tell about him most of the time.
Anyway, I'm simply not interested in anything but the most casual relationship. Heavens, if I were thinking seriously, I'd try to find out something about the man, wouldn't I?
Haven't you?
Definitely not. I'm not even mildly curious. I haven't even the slightest idea where he keeps his $10,000 life insurance policy, and I have no knowledge whatsoever of how he got his leg wounded in the Mexican War, for which he gets a $53 a month pension. I don't even know in what bank he keeps his $2,619 savings account.
Shame on you. You haven't even got his Social Security number.
It's 498265.
Oh, that's Walter Denton. He's taking me to school. I'll be right there, Walter. Now, is there anything you want me to say to Mr. Barlow for you if I happen to see him at school?
Not a thing, Connie.
Okay.
There's no necessity of even mentioning to him that I'm not busy tonight.
I see.
And there's no need for any remarks about the cake I'm baking being too big for one person to finish alone.
I'll be as silent as the tomb.
And above all, it would be utterly shameless if he were to hear that I don't want to waste the box of cigars I bought yesterday.
You can trust me implicitly, Mrs. Davis. I won't say a word to Mr. Barlow. I'll just hit him on the head and drag him home. I'm glad you picked me up early this morning, Walt. I've got an errand to do for Mrs. Davis before my first class.
I'll get you there with the speed of a gazelle, Miss Brooks. Oh, by the way, how's Miss Davis' romance with Mr. Barlow coming along?
Oh, have you noticed that, too? I think it's the cutest thing in the world. Mrs. Davis actually has a bad case of puppy love.
It's cute, considering she's in her second puppyhood. No disrespect intended, you understand. After all, what can be more romantic than two lovely old people encountering each other in this grand passion and the sere and yellow leaf of life?
Why, that's absolutely poetic, Walter.
The burning desires of youth long past, they look now for the subdued glow of companionship, the warm and simple pleasures that two elderly people in love can share together.
I can see them now, soaking their feet in the same pan of Epsom salts.
I bet you'd like to find romance at that age, Miss Brooks.
At the rate I'm going now, I'm counting on it. But, Walter, I'd just as soon you don't mention the subject at school. It might be a source of embarrassment to Mr. Barlow.
My trap is sealed, Miss Brooks. Now, what's the errand you're going to do for Mrs. Davis this morning?
Well, off the record, I'm going to invite Mr. Barlow over to the house tonight. He's been a little backward about asking for a date.
I get it. You're Mrs. Davis's John Alden. Now all you got to do is get Mr. Barlow to invite Mr. Boynton over, and you're all set.
Meeting's adjourned.
Hi, Miss Brooks. You're pretty early today, aren't you?
Hello, Harriet. I've got to deliver a message to the custodian. Have you seen him?
Oh, yes. Mr. Barlow just went into his office. Isn't it wonderful, Miss Brooks?
I don't know. I've never been in his office.
I mean about Mr. Barlow and Miss Davis. They're crazy about each other. Of course, it's a big secret.
It couldn't be a bigger secret if they took out an ad.
Is there anything more romantic than the mellow romance of old age?
Oh, now please, Harriet.
To think that two people finding love at a time of life when others are preparing to pass on, two people walking hand in hand in the twilight of life.
Yes, there's nothing like a brisk walk before passing on.
Well, I won't keep you any longer. Far be it from me to delay Mrs. Davis, emissary of love. Good luck on your mission, Miss John Alden.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Come in.
I hope I'm not disturbing you, Mr. Barlow, but there's something I wanted to ask you.
Well, then go ahead and ask. You want to get apples, you got to shake the tree. Well, what is it?
Well, it's just this. I was wondering if tonight, that is, if you haven't any other plans. Mrs. Davis isn't doing anything, and I'm sure she'd be pleased if you'd wanted to drop over.
Well, that's right neighborly. Would you like me to drop over?
Of course. I'm sure you and Mrs. Davis will have a lovely evening together.
Are you planning on staying in, Miss Brooks?
Well, I suppose so, Mr. Barlow, but I'm sure that at your age you don't need any chaperone.
You're right about that. Maybe we could send Mrs. Davis to a movie.
Sent Mrs. Davis to a movie?
Oh, there's no sense in my trying to hide it any longer.
Why, the only reason I've been coming around to Mrs. Davis's place is to be near you.
Near me? But you've been making dates with Mrs. Davis.
Well, naturally. You got to slip the drones a little honey if you want to get next to the queen bee.
You, Mr. Barlow, are barking up the wrong hive. Well, this is ridiculous. I simply can't believe it's even happening.
Oh, I couldn't believe it myself. I just couldn't understand the feeling that swept over me when I first saw you, Miss Brooks. In fact, since that first time, I've had my glasses changed twice, but it's still the same. I keep asking myself, where have you been all my life?
Well, for 3/4 of it, I wasn't even born. Look, Mr. Barlow, there is a great difference in our ages.
Oh, nonsense, Miss Brooks. I don't believe in age.
Well, neither do I. I've been standing it off for years. I mean, if you'll think this over for a while, you'll realize that it just couldn't work out.
Oh, why not? Hey, is there somebody else playing piano in your front parlor?
No, but Mr. Boynton plays the ukulele on my back porch. We've been going together for quite a while now.
Oh, you mean that biology fella? Oh, shucks, he's just an unsophisticated kid. Why, you couldn't warm him up if you stuck a Bunsen burner under him.
You've been peeking. That is, Mr. Boynton is just shy about expressing his feelings.
He ain't got no feelings if you ask me. Leastwise, not like I have. Especially since I met you. Why, I just knew today was going to bring some excitement into my life. I got the strangest sensation right after breakfast.
Maybe something fell into your gruel.
No two ways about it, sis. I'm smitten.
Well, would it unsmit you if I told you I'm engaged to Mr. Boynton?
Engaged? But he wasn't even over at your place the night I visited Mrs. Davis.
Well, he must have been working. If you come over tonight, I'm sure he'll be there.
What? Seeing is believing. I'll drop by, Miss Brooks. But I still say when it comes to your bringing me messages from Mrs. Davis, well, speak for yourself, John Alden.
There's no use talking. These man-tailored suits have got to go.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate toothpaste.
Cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
Colgate Dental Cream cleans your breath while it cleans your teeth, and the Colgate Way stops tooth decay best. Yes, the Colgate Way is the most thoroughly proved and accepted home method of oral hygiene known today. Over 2 years' research showed brushing teeth right after eating with Colgate Dental Cream helped stop more tooth decay for more people than ever reported in dentifrice history. The Colgate Way stopped tooth decay best. No other dentifrice, ammoniated or not, offers such conclusive proof. And you should know that Colgate, while not mentioned by name, was the only toothpaste used in the research on tooth decay recently reported in Reader's Digest. So always allow the Colgate Way to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and stop tooth decay best.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream. It cleans your breath.
What a toothpaste.
While it cleans your teeth.
And the Colgate Way stops tooth decay best.
Well, I was quite chagrined to find out that Horace Barlow was more interested in me than he was in Mrs. Davis. This was one triangle I was determined would not be eternal, not even overnight. Therefore, at lunchtime, I headed for Mr. Boynton's table in the cafeteria. But just as I got halfway to it... Oh, Mr. Conklin, I'm terribly sorry, sir.
You're slipping, Miss Brooks. You only knocked 2 dishes off my tray today.
I guess I didn't watch where I was going.
Obviously. When you do, you get the whole tray.
Well, luckily nothing happened to your apple pie. The plate is broken, but the pie is intact. Here.
Thank you. Even more luckily, nothing seems to have gotten on my clothes.
No, sir, and I've never seen you look so neat. White carnation and all.
I spoke too soon. That's vanilla ice cream.
Oh, this never would have happened, sir, but I'm terribly preoccupied today.
This must be Preoccupied Day at Madison High. I've had nothing but trouble with our new school custodian for the same reason.
You mean Mr. Barlow?
Yes. He forgets about the furnace. He forgets about to fix the pipes. The old goat acts as if he was in love.
Maybe he is in love.
But who could a 7-year-old codger be in love with?
He happens to be 54.
Yes, and Jack Benny is 39. Horace Barlow in love. At his age, he probably can't tell the difference between a woman and a kangaroo.
Oh, probably not. Well, if you'll excuse me, I'll be hopping off to lunch. No doubt I'll run into you later in the day, Mr. Conklin.
It is with that thought in mind that I carry every possible form of accident and hospitalization insurance. Good day, Miss Brooks.
Good day, Mr. Conklin. He's got a lot of nerve. Just because a person's lived a few more years than some other person.
I'm not like one to interrupt, Miss Brooks, but if you keep talking to yourself, you'll make an eavesdropper out of me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Walter. I've had a little shock this morning. You see, I spoke to Horace Barlow a short time ago about making a date with Mrs. Davis.
What'd he say?
Well, he said he's not interested in Mrs. Davis. He's smitten with someone else.
Somebody else? But he can't do that to Mrs. Davis. She's a very sensitive little lady, and she's nuts about him. She'll be terribly hurt.
That's what I'm afraid of.
He doesn't know when he's well off. I'd like to see the hunk of crow bait he's fallen for.
Now, just a minute, Walter. It so happens that Mr. Barlow thinks he's in love with me.
With you? But that's illegal. It's unthinkable. It's,
let's just call it unusual. Actually, Walter, I'm extremely worried about the situation. Mrs. Davis and I have been friends for too long to let a thing like this come between us.
Well, why don't you just tell Barlow to go peddle his papers?
I did, practically. I even told him I was engaged to Mr. Boynton. That's what I'm worried about. They're both coming over tonight, and I've got to prove it.
Well, what's so tough about that? I'm sure Mr. Boynton will cooperate.
You are?
Sure. For one night.
Oh.
Now, the next thing you got to do is get Mrs. Davis out of the house tonight. Because if she caught you and Mr. Boynton acting as if you were engaged, she'd know something was rotten in Denmark.
What a sweet way to put it. But, Walter, how do I get Mrs. Davis out of the house?
Well, easy. There's an old bachelor friend of my dad's staying at the house for a couple of days, Mr. Gordon. I'm sure he'd like a date with a nice clean-cut character like Mrs. Davis. And I'll ask her to go out with him as a favor to my folks.
Well, what about Mr. Barlow? She expects him tonight.
Well, just tell her he couldn't make it. Say his blood pressure hit a new high or something, and now you go call Mr. Boynton, and I'll go home and make sure Mr. Gordon's available to act as Davis bait for the evening. See you later, Miss Brooks.
All right, Walter, and thanks. Me and the night and the music. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, Mr. Boynton, I've got to talk to you right away.
Oh, what's wrong, Miss Brooks?
It's about Mrs. Davis. You know she's got a crush on the school custodian, Mr. Barlow, but unfortunately he's head over heels in love with someone else.
Oh, please, Miss Brooks, don't make me laugh while I'm drinking coffee. Mr. Barlow's an old man. What kind of shriveled-up prune could he fall for?
Why does it have to be a prune? For all you know, Mr. Barlow could be crazy about a nice, young, firm, fuzzy peach. Besides, he's only 48.
Oh, he's 70 at least, and not what you'd call in prime condition. Why, his hyperthyroidism is apparent, and his incipient arterial sclerosis masking cardiac decompensation was evident to me after one glance.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't take a second glance. He'd be a goner. The truth is, Mr. Boynton, that Mr. Barlow has been coming to our place just to be near me. Oh, well, if I'd known you were going to get so excited, I'd have worn my raincoat. Here, use this napkin.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Brooks, but I couldn't help exploding. You mean to tell me Mr. Barlow is in love with you?
That's right. We hyperthyroids have to stick together. Look, Mr. Boynton, I know it's an absurd situation, but my only real concern is Mrs. Davis. I have got to discourage Mr. Barlow once and for all, and you have got to help me.
Me? What can I do?
Well, he's coming over to our place tonight. I invited him on behalf of Mrs. Davis. Oh, that's when he told me how he felt about me, and that's when I told him something utterly fantastic.
What did you tell him?
That you and I were engaged to be married. Here's the napkin.
Engaged to be married? But, Miss Brooks, that's utterly fantastic.
I'm glad I said it first. Don't you see, Mr. Boynton, this is very important to someone who is very important to me. Mrs. Davis is just about the best friend I've got.
Well, if that's the case, Miss Brooks, I guess the least I can do is cooperate.
Will you really, Mr. Boynton?
Sure. For one night.
Oh.
Oh, boy, I'm full. That was a very fine dinner, Miss Brooks.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, Mr. Boynton. I opened it all by myself. I hope Mr. Gordon took Mrs. Davis to a nice place for dinner. He appears to be a jolly old fellow, doesn't he?
Yes, indeed, and I noticed he gave you a pretty thorough once-over when you were introduced. You seem to pack quite a wallop for these elderly Joes.
Oh, that's me, the Cleopatra of the cardiac cases. Oh, but I've got to clear away these dishes. Mr. Barlow will be over any minute.
Well, if that's the case, shouldn't we be getting into the mood?
The mood?
Well, yes, we're supposed to be engaged, aren't we?
Oh, that mood. Oh, why, Mr. Boynton, I can hardly believe my ears.
Why? There's no sense making a chore out of this thing. We might as well have some fun doing it.
Fun doing it?
Why, certainly. Now, let's get started.
Get started?
Well, the quicker the better.
Quicker the better?
Of course. Well, come on.
Come on? I mean, come on.
Well, sure. You wash and I'll dry.
So much for the hopes of Connie Brooks, girl dreamer. Look, Mr. Boynton, working in the kitchen is the way married people would get into the mood. Engaged couples do their work in the parlor with soft lights.
Okay, we'll take a big basin of water and do the dishes in the parlor.
Sometimes I wish you were ugly. Come on, Mr. Boynton, I'll attend to the dishes later. Let's sit down in the living room,
All right, Miss Brooks. It isn't too healthy to commence working too soon after a meal, anyway.
Oh, that must be Mr. Barlow. Just make yourself comfortable. I'll let him in.
Well, here I am, Brooksy. Fit as a fiddle and twice as musical.
Come in, Mr. Barlow.
Okay.
I fixed a little dinner this evening for my fiancé. We've just finished eating it. Follow me, won't you?
Your fiancé? Then you mean you actually...
Hello, darling. Did you miss me?
Miss you?
I hated to leave you alone for so many seconds, but I just had to let Mr. Barlow in. You remember Mr. Barlow, don't you, dear?
Oh, of course. How are you, Mr. Barlow?
Snappy as a cookie and twice as full of ginger. But let's get to the point here. Miss Brooks here told me that you two are engaged. Is that true?
Well, yes it is.
Well, then how come nobody round school's heard anything about it?
Because we wanted it that way. We've been secretly engaged for over 6 months now, haven't we, darling?
We certainly have, Miss Brooks.
Miss Brooks? Why does he call you Miss Brooks if you're going to be engaged? You're going to be married.
He doesn't like any display of affection in front of company. Let's sit down, shall we? Mr. Barlow, draw up a chair, won't you? And, sweetheart, you draw up a chair and we'll sit down.
On the same chair, but Miss Brooks, I worked out with the basketball team yesterday, and my knees are a little weak.
It may be foul, but I'll never get a shot like this again. Sit down, dear. There we are. Comfy?
Yeah.
Seems mighty strange to me. Most engaged folks I've seen act a little more demonstrative than you two do.
Oh, but we're mad for each other, aren't we, darling?
Yeah, mad.
You know, dearie, you haven't kissed me in 5 minutes.
What?
I said you haven't kissed me in 5 minutes. What are we going to do about that?
Let's wait another 5, huh?
Oh, what's the matter, darling? You want to kiss me, don't you?
Maybe it's me, Miss Brooks.
Oh, no, I'm positive he doesn't want to kiss you. You mean he doesn't want to kiss me in your presence? Oh, I'm sure that wouldn't stop my great big handsome lover boy, would it, dearest?
Well, certainly not. Give me your cheek. There.
Wow. Now how about one to get me down off the ceiling?
Maybe I ought to go.
Oh, but Mr. Barlow, you just got here.
Well, I know, but won't I be interrupting something?
Well, only if you go. I mean, stick around a little while longer. I'll see who it is. Don't move, either of you.
Sorry to disturb you, Connie, but I forgot my key again.
Oh, Mrs. Brooks, what are you doing home so early? Well, here, let me help you off with your coat and eyeglasses.
Mr. Gordon showed me the most wonderful time, Connie, but he has a business appointment first thing in the morning, so we had to cut our date a bit short. Oh, who's that in the living room?
Oh, that's Mr. Boynton.
Oh, I see. And who's the man in the other chair?
That's Mr. Boynton, too. He's awfully restless tonight.
Oh, now I see who it is. It's Mr. Barlow. But you told me he wasn't coming over tonight.
Well, he must have changed his mind. Listen, Mrs. Davis, when two people have a beautiful friendship, they've got to do everything in their power to keep it from breaking up, right?
Let's talk later, dear. I've got to get these shoes off at once. Mr. Gordon just danced my tootsies into a stupor. He's a wonderful man, Connie. That's why I want you to do me a little favor.
A favor?
Yes, when you go back into the living room.
Well, what do you want me to do, Mrs. Davis?
Brush off that other old creep, will you?
You mean Mr. Barlow?
Yes, I haven't the heart to hurt his feelings.
Well, it'll save a lot of explanations, I guess, but I know I'm going to get 2 birds with 1 stone.
What do you mean, Connie?
Oh, as soon as the old duck is gone, my little lovebird will take off like a wounded pelican.
Victoria Olsen as our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment, but first...
The Case of the Closed Scrape, featuring John W. Baker, Justice of the Peace. Here's what Mr. Baker told us. Listen.
Here's exactly what happened. Shaving was just one close scrape after another for me, and then I discovered Palmolive lather shave cream and a new different way to shave. Palmolive's oceans of rich, thick lather ended my worries about scrapes, burns, and nicks. Why, even in cold or hard water, that Palmolive lather way is super smooth, super comfortable.
Well, take John W. Baker's advice, men. The new Palmolive lather way gets beards really soft, and it provides a protective film that actually floats your razor's cutting edge. You get a close, clean shave every time, without worry about scraping or nicking, even in cold or hard water. John W. Baker and 1,200 men tested Palmolive lather cream following package directions, and 3 out of 4 reported smoother, more comfortable shaves, the Palmolive shave cream way, no matter how they shaved before. Remember, even in cold or hard water, the Palmolive lather way means smoother, more comfortable shaves.
And once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, I told Mr. Barlow that Mrs. Davis had returned home with a bad headache, and he left the house after threatening to call her up very soon. Then, as I was about to barricade the door against Mr. Boynton's next move, he addressed me.
Well, I'm sorry Mrs. Davis doesn't feel well, Miss Brooks. Is she lying down in her room?
Yes, she is, Mr. Boynton.
Well, that leaves just the 2 of us, doesn't it?
Yes, but don't be nervous. It's much too early for you to think of leaving.
Oh, I'm not thinking of leaving, Miss Brooks. You and I still have plenty of unfinished business to attend to.
Unfinished business?
Well, certainly.
You and I?
That's right. After all, somebody's got to get those dinner dishes. Why don't you wash and I'll dry?
Better still, you wash and dry. I've got another engagement.
Another engagement?
Sure. If I hurry, I can catch Mr. Barlow before he gets on the bus.
This has been our Miss Brooks. Radio Icebox will be back with the rest of the story right after this. It can be in the sound of the orchestra preparing, or in the sound of a sculptor working in stone, or even in the sound of laughter from inside a theater. It is the sound of art being created, and for over 3 decades, the sound of art being created has rung loud and clear in northeastern Minnesota. The Arrowhead Regional Arts Council has been encouraging local arts development in northeastern Minnesota through grants and services for over 35 years. Every year, they give out more than $500,000 to local artists and arts organizations, and that helps create $40 million in revenue and jobs created. To find out more about our arts programs or how you can get involved, visit aracouncil.org. The Arrowhead Regional Arts Council, where the arts flourish, you thrive.
Where is he now?
Gone? Gone where? Well, the woods, I think. He finally saw himself in a mirror and decided it would be better that way. Sorry, folks. Had to get the radiation under control.
Still the toaster experiment?
Yep. Giving me fits at night, and I'm really hungry for toast all the time.
I think you'll forget about it soon.
Why? What'd I miss?
Tell him, Dr. Graves.
The Ringmaster is back in corporeal form. The Ringmaster? That character from the prison rock last year? Yes. He's been visiting me in ghostly form for some time. What for? Oh, he's lonely in their dimension. His cohorts are not likely to forget the role he played in the Barkers' dictatorship. Oh, I imagine not. But you say he's corporeal? Yes. We were playing chess the other day when a dimensional portal suddenly opened and a duck appeared.
Like they do.
Yes. Nothing else came through the portal, but when it closed, the Ringmaster had shifted from a basically humanoid translucent shape into a, well, I don't know how to describe him.
Lovecraftian horror?
Oh, yes. Cody, that will do nicely. Lovecraftian horror? Yes. Tentacles? Bulbous head? Ridiculously undersized leather wings? All that and more. I tried to get him to stay in the house because I thought he'd cause a panic in the town. But he said the woods were more comfortable. Okay, so what are we going to do?
Right now, nothing. There's too much going on, and it's hard to keep the pieces all straight.
You go to fix a toaster for a couple of weeks, and look what happens.
Everything.
Oh, speaking of everything, Doctor. Yes? What's the latest on your lodger? Oh, I wish you wouldn't call him that, old friend. I barely knew the man, and I do not exaggerate that point. Oh, you've always been too trusting. Yes, but this is a new low. Allowing a murderer into my home? It chills me just to think about it.
About that, Cody, have you managed to talk to Sam about, well, the item?
You mean the head? Sorry, Doctor.
Oh, it's all right. I shouldn't be so sensitive. I can't help but feel terrible about that. Oh, yes, it could have been you in that CRISPR. Oh, it's not that. Charles had many opportunities to kill me, and he was always a perfect gentleman.
Okay.
No. What I'm concerned about is that refrigerator. I can't use it, and it's always run so well.
Okay.
Perhaps if you replace the CRISPR drawer? Well, let me think about it.
Anyway, that wasn't my question.
You had a question?
Did you talk to Sam?
Oh, right. No, he won't talk.
We'll make him.
How? He has a gun.
What is it that you wish to know, Abby?
Well, who the head belongs to, of course. It seems to me we ID the head will answer a lot of questions.
I just thought of something. He might not have killed that person, mightn't he?
Well, possibly not, but it does seem to point that way.
Why else keep a human head in your refrigerator?
I couldn't begin to guess, but it is possible he didn't sever the head himself. He could have found it. Found it where? Well, medical supply store, eBay. What's your point? Just that. I liked Mr. Rogers. He seemed kind and sincere, and he was already doing so much good around my cemetery. I can't begin to tell you.
But wasn't he a little, I don't know, creepy?
I live in a big, creepy house, Abby. A silent, hulking mass in coveralls poking around the graveyard goes perfectly with the decor. Well, I suppose the only thing to do is to go back to work on that dimensional portal transporter.
I thought you broke it apart after last time.
I did. Just kept the parts. If we can figure out how to find the right dimension, we might be able to find Mr. Rogers and figure out why that Ringmaster character is, well, a monster. Oh, don't be concerned. That's a fair description. He'd be the first to tell you. Okay, then. The toaster will have to wait. Cody, you coming?
Actually, Grandpa, I've got kind of a bigger issue.
What could be bigger than helping me rebuild a dimensional transport?
This.
We are the sirens. We resist the tyranny of the image. Sound is proof. The image is a lie. We are the sirens.
See?
You have a point there. The station should get back on its feet.
Thanks, Grandpa. I'll be over as soon as I can.
Maybe JJ could help with that?
I'm sure he can, but where is JJ?
It is a little odd that he's not here, isn't it?
I haven't seen him all day. Have you?
No. I wonder if we should go find him?
No, I'm sure it's...
What? What is it?
Nothing. It's nothing.
And we were born with eyes and ears both, so it was natural that we would use them, right? It wasn't really like a choice. In some cases, eyes are important. In others, we need ears. We can smell and feel things too.
5 senses. This is chaos. How can you survive?
As I said, we didn't really think about it.
Yes, as primitive beings, you can be excused from understanding, but you can add to the holy sound wave. Your species is of sufficient development that you are accountable. All waveformers are accountable.
Sorry, what do you mean, the holy wave?
The holy wave! As you call it, radio. The sounds which are bound not by planets or stars. This was how we originally came to find you.
So you're close enough to hear those radio waves?
Of course. We traveled the stars searching for the holy wave. Yours was a planet we found on a routine sweep. We have been moving steadily towards you ever since.
So you're actually coming here?
It is our purpose. We seek out the truth of sound. We reject the tyranny of image.
If you don't mind me asking, reject how?
The tyranny of image must not be allowed to stand. We will eliminate it at all costs.
Including killing those who see?
We will eliminate it at all costs. Our ship is close now. We're only a few cycles up. When we get there, we will listen to the situation, then respond accordingly. Understand it is not our intent to kill or conquer. We only seek the truth of the holy wave, and reject the tyranny of the image. The image is lies. The image is deception. A shadow changes meaning. A color tint alters mood. The image is lies.
Wait a minute. If you're all blind, how do you know about colors and tints?
Do you question the sirens? Do you question the truth of the holy wave?
No. I mean, I don't really understand the holy wave.
You are a meek and flawed character. We understand. You are not entirely responsible for your ignorance.
Thank you.
Your help will not be forgotten. Your willingness to assist will be considered not only in regard to your fate, but to the fate of your entire planet.
Wait a minute, my what?
Your willingness to assist will be considered.
Willingness to assist? Wait, do you think I'm going to help you take over my planet?
Have we not been discussing this?
No, I can't. You can't do this. I'll tell people you're coming. I'll warn them that you...
Be silent. We know how you feel.
No, I really don't think you do.
You forget. We have done this numerous times. Dozens of times. The emotions you are speaking are very common. Indeed, we have come to expect it from any assist we find.
Any assist?
One who aids in our search for the holy wave on a particular planet. Our ears on the ground, as it were.
I never promised to help you. I never even suggested...
Stop. Listen.
To what?
Your own words. Your own thoughts. Your voice softens as you speak about your planet and the possibility of it being invaded. But before, when our words were of the tyranny of the image, your voice had force, depth, even reverb.
What the hell are you talking about?
You may think you are not ready to help us, human, but the sounds of your own mouth betray your true feelings.
My true feelings are that
What? Are what? What really are your feelings for this world of yours? This world that, according to your own history, began with the holy wave and drifted from its pure truth to this abomination of moving pictures. All the while you sit in a tiny place far away from power and influence. Keepers of the holy wave should be elevated and celebrated, not exiled to freezing towns where no one can hear. You are a victim, You are a victim of their tyranny.
But you're talking about invasion.
Does not all change come that way? We have been monitoring all the holy wave that emanates from your planet, including the historical documents. Your planet's history, your own nation's history, filled with this exact story. The enlightened bringing truth to the savage.
How old are the stories you were listening to?
What matter is that?
Well, okay, it's true that when we settled this country, we did what you said we did, but we know better now.
Have you given back to the savages what you took?
Well, no, I guess not.
Such is the way of things. The holy wave favors those standing at the end of the fight.
History is written by the victors.
That's a much better way of putting it. We're gonna remember that.
I don't think that
We understand your feelings. We have observed the same emotions on hundreds of worlds, and always the assistant comes to hear the truth.
You mean your truth?
The truth. We'd wager you could say it by memory by now.
Sound is truth, the image is a lie.
You see? You understand. You are one of us, human. You were one of us before you even knew we existed. You will be one of us until you are silenced forever. Agreed?
I don't know.
And think of this. A whole world, your world, where the holy wave, where radio is king again, and you would sit on its throne.
I'm not...
This transition can be easy on your people, or it can be hard. And it can only be easy with someone like you to help. Will you help us? Will you help your people hear the truth?
I don't know.
The lack of rejection is merely another form of acceptance. Do you agree? Very good. We will be there soon, JJ. And the new era will begin.
I just don't know.
Then you soon will.
This has been Radio Icebox Season 2, Episode 8, The Whisper in Your Ear, featuring Ayla McIntosh as Abby, Tom Bement as Major, Douglas Screef as Dr. Graves, Jeffrey Adams as JJ, Caleb Silvers as The Sirens, and Cody Boyer as Cody. Our play this evening was a recreation of the classic old-time radio episode Our Miss Brooks, recorded live in February 2014 as part of the Bundled Up Theater Festival. It starred Victoria Olsen and featured Jim Yunt, Stephen Windells, Cody Boyer, Autumn Silvers, Diane Adams, and Jeffrey Adams. Other voices provided by the talented cast. Some sound effects from the Freesound Project at freesound.org. A complete list of music and sound effect credits is available at iceboxradio.org/credits. The Radio Icebox Playhouse theme song is Monkeys Spinning Monkeys by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Radio Icebox Season 2 is made possible in part by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Arrowhead Regional Arts Council, thanks to appropriations from the Minnesota State Legislature's General and Arts and Cultural Heritage Funds.